Yo, back in the day in 2020, the fry era was definitely hitting and booming. I know three people that did that fucking. I forgot what type of loan that shit. The PPP loan. Yes. I don't know what the fuck going on now. They probably still got some bread though. I don't think they ever got caught with that shit. Cause they wasn't running their mouth. Like, but y'all niggas that got caught with that shit obviously ran y'all fucking mouth too much. That's why y'all got caught. That was the freest bread ever. If you just played your cards right and put that shit under a person name who either like don't know the person that's trying to do that shit, but is connected, but not okay. You gotta just have a third, like it's like a third party where you gotta be a third party in that situation. Gang, you need to use folks. You need to use somebody's name who's relatives to like your homeboy or some shit, like somebody that can't be traced back to you at all. But anyway, and that shit was on some goddamn employee, goddamn faking employee numbers and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't even know too much about that PPP loan stuff. I just never mind.
In 2019, people that lived in one bedroom apartments were living in mansions with Lamborghinis by 2020. Now, with the whole COVID fraud era, this wasn't the first time mass fraud had happened, but since I was born in the 90s, it was the first one that myself and people born in the 2000s had ever seen. By 2020, I was successfully flunked out of college, but I was still living in a college town at the time. And I remember running into this kid I knew from my fraternity that was a bit younger than me. He pulled up on me with a huge grin on his face and said, "I just got $11,000. I can take care of my whole family now." And I was so broke at the time, I was like, "Damn, bro, you came up." Obviously, thinking about it now, that was the dumbest shit I had ever heard. And after getting conned by college girls into buying them drugs and alcohol every time they went to a party, that 11,000 was gone pretty quick, as you can imagine. And being from Chicago, I remember the huge card cracking ring that was rampant in the city until the mid 2010s when the feds came in and a guy near the top of the operation cooperated against everyone else.
All you in there that's been in there for this card cracking shit and y'all back out, don't call me and talk to me like we got. Don't talk to me. You niggas scare me.
But essentially, what this was, it was just bank fraud. And you were either in one of two categories. At the top were the paper men, the guys that had a monopoly on the counterfeit bank documents needed for the fraud to take place. And if you wanted to scam but you couldn't produce these papers yourself, then the only way you could get in was by paying whatever extortionate price the paperman would charge them for these documents. And this went on for some time. And as a result, it wasn't uncommon to see high school kids in the early 2010s pulling up to school in brand new BMWs, and I personally used to watch people walk in currency exchanges and come out with big stacks of 50s. And this contributed to the decline in the culture of drug trafficking on the south side of Chicago, at least compared to the 80s and 90s. Because if you were a teenage criminal, all of a sudden, you could just make $5,000 a year without selling anything. And as a 16-year-old, yeah, it seemed like a very lucrative opportunity. And people back then would even convince their family members to cash fake checks, because majority of the time, you could just withdraw the money and tell your bank that you didn't know the check was fake. And surprisingly, that would work. But by the time COVID happened, bank fraud was still a thing, but it became a bit less common. And I'll never forget that once the SBA loan dropped, I would get on Instagram, and all of a sudden, everybody was on live eating lobster, they on vacation, luxury vacations, counting big stacks of money. And when I came back to the city, I see people riding three-wheelers through the hood and what looked like eighth graders in convertibles. Now I'll admit, the temptation was there. I was a 20-something, working a retail job, living paycheck to paycheck. I was a dumbass that flunked out of college, and everywhere I looked, somebody got $10,000 coming.
Bro, you just did your own thing, nigga. Look where you at now. You doing this shit the legal way, the right way. Them niggas, I'm pretty sure them niggas don't got that paper or them cars that they bought with that money back then. Nigga, you got all your money taxed. You, bro, you living the life, my nigga. They want to be in your position. Like, that brings me back to this point I was thinking about. Like, bro, you really do gotta stay down to come up. Like, yeah, my nigga, the longer you stay down, the bigger your come up gonna be. The better you gonna, it's gonna like the better it's gonna feel to be in the position that you in once you up. Cause you already know, like, man, I've been through that. I've been through that. So you ain't gonna like, bro, you gonna hold on to your position way longer. than a nigga who ain't never been through shit and got handed this shit. The nigga don't know what this take.
In every week, and that's when the PPP hit.
Boy, I done got my PPP loan. My whole life done changed. I'm out here in Florida.
Where people were all of a sudden getting 20,000 at a time. And the really greedy people were hitting for over 100,000 and even 1 million. And that's when the cutthroat behavior was at an all-time high. So of course, many people wanted to get in on this fraud that was clearly not free money, but a lot of people didn't know how to do it. And that's when you had the sneaky people come in who knew how to apply for the loan, but instead of telling you how to do it, they would offer to do an application for you if you pay a fee. And some guys would commit identity theft to do your application in someone else's name, and some would just do it in your name with your permission. Now, both are really bad, but either way, the guy doing the application would get paid without having to put himself at risk at all, because none of it was in his name, but they would act like they were doing you a favor. But of course, that's on you if you was greedy enough to agree to that. And I remember at this time, I had a friend that offered to do a PPP loan in my name. Oh, thank you. How generous of you to offer my name in federal fraud. This guy was clearly not my friend, because for a fee, he had no problem offering something that could get me in trouble. So of course I declined, and I'm glad I did. Many friendships ended over the scamdemic, but greed was at an all-time high. I mean, people were abandoning all logic, buying not one, but multiple houses and luxury cars with money obtained through fraud. And I watched people do it comfortably because in their mind, since no one had been immediately arrested, it must be free money then, right? People was getting robbed because they didn't know that once you did some of these loans, your name and the address you entered would appear on a public database, which people would find and wait outside for you in the bushes. And every single person I saw get a loan, that money was gone before 2021. I still don't know who the first person was to do it and spread the news, but this had huge implications, as according to studies done on the areas flagged with the highest number of PPP loans and Dr. Samuel Kruger at the University of Texas at Austin, home prices in these areas actually went up due to all the people buying homes with fraud money. And even wealthy people like Khloe Kardashian and Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump's husband, received millions of dollars from PPP loans and even had these loans forgiven. Tom Brady got nearly $1 million from it, which was also forgiven. Nancy Pelosi's husband got over $1 million forgiven. And there were many other wealthy people who received loans that probably didn't need it despite the fact that they did own a business. But it was getting ridiculous because even the news started pulling up to people's houses questioning them about the loan. And man, it just wasn't worth it. One thing my dad taught me about the federal government is that they have two things we don't: time and money. When you evade taxes, the feds are willing to wait a decade for you to keep digging a hole before they come and get you. I watched a man run up $10,000 in unpaid child support out of state, but realizing he was on a timer, he hurried up and got on the payment plan. And when all of this was going on, I just knew it wouldn't last, and eventually people would start getting caught. Because, I mean, it goes without saying, trying to defraud the US government is pretty stupid. Only the US government can defraud the US government. You can't do it. It's one thing to commit bank fraud, but you gonna play with the IRS? Man, I would never play with them people, bro. If it was that easy, then billionaires wouldn't have to suck up to politicians just to get a tax break. They spend money to have that privilege. And not to mention, there's no good scenario that came out of all of this. If you only got like 20 or 40,000, that might be enough to run, but not enough to run for the rest of your life. And the people that took millions just bought mansions in the United States, the country that's looking for you. If you crashed out like that and hit for $1 million, you should have been on the first flight to Moscow, not Miami. You should have bought a house in Bali and settled down with a traditional Indonesian wife. You on the list, man. I can't tell you how many people took these checks and went to Miami Beach to rent slingshots and big ass Airbnbs, or went to LA where $100,000 can be gone in a week or less. Then, when you get caught, you gotta plead guilty because you can't afford no lawyer, and you better not try to fight a Fed case with a public defender. Or maybe you should, because a paid lawyer will say anything to get your money. Meanwhile, a real public defender will tell you the truth. Like, hey man, they got you on camera in Miami, bro. You was popping bottles, flying people out. You took 3 flights in 2 weeks. They scanned your ID at all the airports. If you don't plead guilty, they gonna give your ass the max. And we ain't gonna see you till the iPhone 25 come out. The realest thing a public defender ever told me was, you did it. Just plead guilty. Don't piss the judge off. And who am I to argue with him? He see the judge every day. He watched the man slam that hammer so many times and make people pass out in the courtroom. He know what he talking about. There was a dude in Georgia that hit for $13 million and got damn near 15 years. And he only got to run around with all this money for a year before he got caught in 2022. And they made him sit until 2026.
Marietta scam artist sentenced to nearly 15 years in federal prison for $13 million PPP loan fraud and tax scheme in Atlanta, of course. But I'm not even surprised. How the fuck did you get caught? With that much money, spread it out. You have to spread it out. Like, as soon as you get it, you gotta see, you ain't gonna be able to keep like probably millions unless you already have a way to funnel it out to some clean cash, or just get it out of the fucking account without your face or ID being shown. So like, you gotta put that bitch on crypto or something immediately. Oh, disappear 4 million quick. Nigga, as soon as I do that 15, I'm coming out of that 4. I don't care. I don't even give a fuck. All I'm gonna think about, nigga, each year I'm paying myself 1.5 million to be here. Right. Well, no, every 5 years. Every 5 years. Let's say that. You made $1 million every 5 years. Just think about this shit. You making more money than that's still lifetime changing money, my nigga. 4 million. Come on, bro.
When they finally sentenced him, ain't nobody gonna see this man until 2040. That wasn't even worth a house and 2 cars, bro. He pled not guilty and tried to fight it, knowing that he bought a Lamborghini Aventador. Like, man. And it was a 2014. Bro, you might as well bought a Chevy Trax. You crashed out for nothing. Like pretty much everybody that committed fraud to obtain these loans. Just hearing people at the time try to explain how you can do it and how it was so easy to just lie on this application. Like, man, you think the federal government ain't gonna never catch on to this, bro? Are you crazy? People was thinking, oh man, it's just $20,000. They ain't even gonna notice it. Bro, if 500,000 of y'all hit for $20,000, they're gonna notice. Not to mention, any deposit you get over $10,000 gets flagged by the feds anyway. This is the IRS's job, bro. They don't do much else. This is money. Their job is money. And yeah, that's all. But I do have some longer videos coming, guys, I promise. I just haven't made them yet because I like to be able to drop frequently so you guys have something to watch. You know, it's like a series. If they didn't make you wait all week for a new episode to come out. But just for now, we're gonna have...
Man, them PPP loans are changing niggas' lives for real. Like,